President Trump's agenda. Maura Gillespie, BlueStack Strategies founder, is our guest on that. Do you think that there is more to the story as to why Marjorie Taylor Greene decided not to run for Senate here?
I think there's a good amount of concern that she could win statewide. I think that she is pretty far on the fringe as far as the Republican Party goes. And although she tried at times over the past few years to walk that back a bit by befriending the former Speaker Kevin McCarthy, I think that her team would have told her it would be really hard for her to win statewide. So I think that's more of a factor than it is anything else.
But she has won re-election in her district. I mean, her district obviously seems to love her.
Sure, but they're a very red district. So when you're thinking about statewide races, and that's the concern that I think a lot of Republicans are going to face, and as a party we're going to face, because if we don't have candidates, like a Brian Kemp, who are willing to step up and take on a race statewide where they could win, then we're going to be, right now we have the majority, but we may not have it for much longer if we can't find good candidates who can win in a broader race than just a primary or just a very far red state that is a strong red state. They need to be able to win on a broader scale. It's
also a very different job serving in the House of Representatives versus serving in the U.S. Senate, which is a very different institution.
Entirely. And I think I've seen a few quotes from Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Congresswoman, in her frustrations about how the Senate operates, as she put it in her statement when she announced that she wasn't going to be running against Ossoff. And I think that speaks to so much of what her frustration is, and so many on the fringe, which is a concern to me, though, because the Constitution and the founders developed our system of government for a reason this way, that there are 60 vote thresholds in the Senate because they wanted members of Congress to work across the aisle to get things done. Now, yes, Republicans have the majority, and so we have the momentum to be able to do more of what we are looking to accomplish, but you still have to be willing to negotiate with your colleagues across the aisle. And I think that is something that some members in the House get frustrated by, because it tends to slow the process down a bit to make sure that the policy that's being enacted is then something that gets that 60 vote threshold.
There's also the prospect of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running for president. Now, when she was elected some years ago, she was the youngest woman ever elected to the House of Representatives. Does she have a chance, I guess, to get nominated for president on the Democrat side?
I would put her in the same category as I would Marjorie Taylor Greene, as far as being too far on the fringe to really garner a more broad centrist population vote. I don't think that she would be able to get those more moderate voters, whether you're leaning left or leaning right. She is too far on the fringe to be able to do that. Yes, her fighting the oligarchy campaign seems to be going well and giving something for Democrats to point to say we've got somebody out there fighting, because there really has been pretty profound silence on the Democratic side as far as leadership goes. But the talk about her being a candidate, yes, of course, they're going to say don't count her out. She took out Joe Crowley back when she won her House seat, becoming the youngest member of Congress, but it doesn't translate to a presidential race, in my opinion.
Yeah, there are detractors and there are supporters, and we spoke to some of each. Listen.
Honored to be able to vote for Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez for president.
Don't underestimate AOC.
I wouldn't dislike seeing her as a candidate for president.
I don't know. Sorry, she's too young in the game for it, I think.
Too young in the game. I guess she would be 35 by the time 28 runs around. So, that would be old enough to run. The question is the experience level and the judgment, I guess.
Absolutely. And you just hit on the experience factor, which I do think both Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ocasio-Cortez are going to struggle with if they were to consider statewide races like this or broader presidential races like this. AOC, despite being in Congress for as long as she has, still doesn't have the leadership experience or the policy experience. What and that's what I think as voters we need to look at. What have they done in their role as Congresswoman or as a Congressperson? What policies have they enacted? What committees they sit on? And aside from doing, TikTok videos or social media posts from her apartment in D.C., pushing more so about what are the policies and what impact are they trying to make? Because you can't just simply have a anti-message. And what I think Republicans are going to see that they come up against in these next races, whether it's Virginia and New Jersey governor races or looking ahead to 2026, is if the Democrats only have anti-Trump or anti-Trump and Elon, which is this, oligarchy tour, then voters are going to say, well, what are you for? What are we looking to vote for you for? And that is going to be a question they need to come up with an answer to.
Maura Gillespie, the founder of Blue Stack Strategies. Maura, thank you.